Hey guys, I want to take this time real quick before the podcast actually starts to give you a couple announcements and share some stuff with you. First off, you will be seeing this video in 480p, and the back half of it will actually just be an image. I'm doing that due to time constraints on getting this out on time. I needed to get this to render faster. An hour and a half takes my machine a long time to render the stuff in high quality, and also to upload it usually takes about 8 to 12 hours to process and render there. So please forgive me, we're just running behind this week. This is not going to be the norm. I would like to share that we're going to do our first question and answer session next week on the channel. So if you have any comments or questions you would like to address myself, Kobe, or any other guys in TBLF or that you hear on the channel, please drop them below. It could be about aircrafts. It could be about, is your girlfriend cheating on you? What system specs do you think? Is NVIDIA or AMD? Whatever, what's better, squirrel or chipmunk? I don't care. Ask your questions. Be creative. Or if you actually have serious questions, I'd love to hear those too. And we will do our best to give some answers. Then podcast after this will be about E3 coverage possibly. Seeing if how... Well, E3 is next week, and we're going to see what's going to be released in the next year or two. I'll try to get some of the guys on, and we'll kind of review some trailers and what we think is interesting or stupid or whatnot. We always have deep business debates about Ubisoft, EA, 2K, Blizzard, etc. So hopefully you guys will find that interesting and get our take on what's coming out in the next year or two. And then after that will be the 1 year anniversary of Bowtime. We started last year at about July 2nd-ish, I believe, is when I kind of went officially live with this channel. So we will be doing a community event. I don't know how long yet. It'll probably be on a Saturday afternoon Eastern time. I may open up the TeamSpeak. I'm trying to work out some logistics and scheduling and coming up with some games for us to do. But we will do some of the games. I'll try to get as many of the TBLF guys around too that day to, I guess, kind of have a online closed party. So keep on the lookout for those announcements. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or as you see on the YouTube that you're watching right now. I hope that you find that the podcast that we did today with Jollyoldchap to be interesting. We had a lot of fun recording this, so I hope you guys have a lot of fun listening to it. Time really went fast when we recorded this. I couldn't believe this thing was an hour and a half when we were done. So I guess that means you're having a good time when time flies, right? So, oh, that guy just got nailed. And this footage right here you're seeing is from an upcoming film montage. I guess I'll talk about this for a minute before the podcast starts. This was 3 Aircobras, unnamed clan, unnamed players, who, as you can see, triple teaming my poor KI-102, and they made the film montage because of this. And it's kind of sad that this is where the American players are flying around the Pacific with bazookas on their P-39 Aircobras versus a KI-102. Oh, head-on miss. Almost kills his teammate. And his other teammate misses me. It's a shame. Actually, it's going to watch this until the video starts, I guess. But like I said, there'll be a little bit of tutorial guide stuff. It'll be some footage from I took off my desktop for you guys. And then we're going to go straight to an image just to help rendering time. Like I said, it takes my machine like 3 hours to render this plus another 12 to upload. So please forgive me about the images. Just sit back, listen. I recommend probably just alt-tabbing, actually, after the first 15 minutes, and playing War Thunder while you're just listening to us. Boom! There it is! And that's how you beat American teams, by making them kill themselves. Anyway, sit back and enjoy the podcast. Now remember, submit those questions by, let's call it Friday night, and you have a chance for us to answer them. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Side Chat Podcast. This week we will be joined by Jollyoldchap from BRS to talk about Squadrons and how they relate to War Thunder.
Hey there.
First thing I want to do is run through how the current Squadron system works in War Thunder, and then we will kind of expand it from there with some topics. I think Squadrons are typically the community is the backbone of any game, obviously, and how a community interacts with each other is kind of how long people will continue to play the game, and how people network in the game, and overall has quite a bit to do with the success of a game.
You see that squadrons are kind of like an extra layer above that. It's a more closed community, so to speak. Within the actual gaming community overall, you've got like a relatively small selection of guys. Even if you've got max squadron, 128 guys, talking, creating a community, and as Bo said, like how the way they interact can often result in the way how long people stay in the game, their views of the game, how they look at the game, how they play the game, and a whole bunch of other things.
The first thing I never understood when they did bring out Squadrons last year was the cost, and back then it was 2,500 Eagles. I believe it still costs 2,500 Eagles.
2,500, yeah.
For US, that's just under $15 for us, and I know a lot of guys actually don't even know it costs quite a bit of money. And I guess the idea is, besides, I kind of feel like it's nickel and diming people, and I never played a game in all these years that's actually charged for people to put a clan tag in front of their name. But I also understand that if you open it up to the world for free, that there's going to be 1.5 million squadrons. Every person's going to have their own little squadron.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, the cost is, I think most people would agree. Most people who made the squadron would agree that 2,500 Eagles is too much. I mean, if you go to like 1,000, 1,500, that's
Yeah,
more reasonable.
I think 500 is perfect, but I'm not going to start a whole debate about that. But so for 2,500 Eagles for $15 US, pretty much all you get is this box right here. I have it up on my screen that allows you to accept or deny applications, see the members in your squadron, assign them the rank of private, officer, or commander, which has different permission settings, and then that's pretty much for the most part it.
It's bare bones. It's a
Yeah,
bare bones system.
you get this little squadron chat bar, which does not really notify you if
Yeah.
anybody's left a message. So I'll have guys leave 16 lines of text, and then I'll never see it. I kind of feel bad for them. And then there's supposed to be leaderboards, but the leaderboards stopped working. So now we have.
Well, the leaderboards.
Well, they changed it to that squadron battle stuff.
Yeah, the leaderboards are very weird. I mean, some days you'll go like every hour, it will update constantly, and then suddenly for like a week or two, it won't update any of the stats. So it's hit and miss. I don't really know how it works. And plus, obviously, the squadron battle system, which is probably another topic in itself, is completely balked right now. So
Yeah, we'll talk about that after a while. And the last thing I'll point out is I love this itty bitty, tiny little text box that we're supposed to put squadron information in, which you get, as you can see, about 3 lines of text in if you're really good. Um, and I think that's, I'm gonna go on about what this bare bone system lacks in my eyes. And the first thing is the communication for a squadron to talk to each other sucks. And I'm going to play some footage during this podcast from a game called Star System, which I think has done squadrons correctly. So you see me going through that game's free squadron, as they call organizations in that game, webpage that has all the different settings and chats and so on. So that's what you'll be seeing play in the background. But the first problem is the ability to just simply post a bulletin or a message to people. Like when they log in, hey, we're gonna have a scrim on Saturday at 5 p.m. or just simply being able to communicate to your entire squadron without hunting them down one by one, sending them private messages.
it's a huge, huge issue. I mean, for like, us at DRS, we ended up having to make or to buy our own website essentially and build it up from there, just because it was virtually impossible to communicate with people, say, hey, we've got an event coming here at this time, this hour. There was no way of discussing with people properly. I mean, other than Teamspeak, but even that's limited in itself. So there's definitely a lot of holes in it, and I mean, it's. But the thing is, with squadrons, a lot of people don't realize they go into it all optimistic and maybe with rose-tinted glasses, like, yeah, we'll make a squadron, we'll open it up to everyone. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. You learn quickly that you can't open it up to everyone, and
Yeah,
it's a lot of effort. It's almost a job if it weren't for the people you're playing with making it fun.
yeah, it's like there's so much extra work going. These are just basic, features we're talking about that would make squadrons so much more effective. A simple thing would be just a simple calendar where you could post events. Like, hey, we're gonna play tanks on Thursday evening. Just something to say to your, try to organize something instead of just hopping on and seeing who's on. I like to see a bigger space for information because it's hard for me to put. I don't know if people are applying or even reading the information we put there, and
Uh,
I can't put all the information that I would like to put there and have it actually stand out. The squadron chat sucks. Like I said, I don't even know if people are messaging me in the squadron chat, so there's no type of notification system. They even, there's whatever.
yeah.
And then the leaderboards and stats. The problem is with this is that as you can see here, I'm just going down through all I have is they joined on this date. I don't know the last time that player was online. I have no idea how they're actually doing in the game, so I have no way of stat tracking them unless I dive deeper into their own, stats or hunt
That
them.
is a, that little point there about like when they last logged in and like the activity is crucial. I mean, because if you want to if you want to make a competitive squadron, like you want to be up there high on the leaderboards, you need to know when people like how active people are because otherwise it's just hauling dead weight. They're just sitting there in the squadron not doing anything really, not being active. That's like a huge problem we have at BRS. I mean, we try not to kick people because they're inactive. We try to recruit them in the first place because they are active, but it's difficult. It means people slip through the holes. They'll just sit there for months on end, and only recently we've come up with a new sort of organizational system. I guess we had to make our own just to keep track of who's active, who's not. Simple things like that could make this whole system a lot easier, especially for like all the commanders and officers. It would actually give them some sort of role as opposed to just having a title.
Absolutely. And another thing I'd just like to see, just stupid little things like ability to add a logo for your organization, and when you click on that player card, that squadron's logo is next to your name or something. Just something like a little bit of customization to flare up the game and you know, just a little bit of recognition, I guess. And a lot of other games, most of the games I played, allows you to put a 15 by 15 pixel, simple logo next to a clan or a squadron name. My biggest problems, though, like we're talking a little bit, is the squad management from a commander or officer point of view is just absolutely terrible. And the first thing I like to point out is that the application system is absolutely horrid because people will apply. I will see they applied, and I'll open it up here, and this is all I get: application date, this date, and so on. There's no more information. There's no text that comes with the like, hey, I'm blah blah blah. I'm from here. I fly this. I'm interested in doing it because of that. There's no way of them entering text, and there's no way of them when they hit apply that says we are an 18 or older squadron. We require this. Require this. Require this. There's no communication. It's just apply, and then you just sit there and go, well, hit player card and then see, well, they played for this much and they're ranked this and they like a typhoon. That's all I can get from, the game.
It's not ideal to say the least. I mean, there are ways around it. I mean, everything you basically just said there, we're doing like you can do through a separate website, but then you wouldn't really need that separate website. It's just an extra hassle to go through that when it should easily be there. You can put minimum requirements in the little information box, but it's so small that people rarely read it. But when they do, it's it's just so nice when people actually read. They stop, they read, they just look through things. But it should be a lot easier for them to see that. Now, maybe an automated system where it automatically sees, okay, you don't meet the minimum requirements, therefore you can't apply. That would be a good thing to have if it's at all possible. I mean, like, I know a lot of the big squadrons in this game, they have their own dedicated website, and you have to apply to their website first. You have to fill in, like, it's almost like a self-assessment form. You put in your stats, making your little self-assessment form. How do you rate yourself as a pilot? They take it that seriously. But, it's that sort of thing that makes, is that level of detail, that level of organizational skill within a squadron that helps it stick around a lot longer than a lot of the squadrons that you see that are just sort of thrown together by guys who just want to dick around.
like I said though, it's a full-time job managing that website, checking the forums. I mean, it takes up you don't realize it sounds stupid, but it actually takes up
A lot of your time.
can take up a couple hours a day that you're just sitting there instead of playing games. You're sitting there, reading emails and web server crap and updates and upgrades and etc. So, uh, next point I want to
Yeah.
bring up though is one thing I have problem with, big problem with, is that as you see, I have commanders, I have officers. There's no log for you to see what people have done in regards to the squadron, so I can't see if people have denied an application. I can't see why an application was denied. I can't see that players were accepted or why they were accepted. And I can't, like, if one of the officers decide one day, to hell with it, and kicks all 45 members of TBLF, I'll never know who did it. It's just, it's kind of a big problem from an admin point of view that's not very hard to do.
Yeah. I mean, this or what I call it is like ghost kicking, basically, from a squadron. It's happened before in BRS, although that was more accidentally and perhaps warranted. But it's an issue because it creates a sort of like bitter aftertaste in the person's mouth who's been kicked, because more often than not they don't get a decent answer, a reason as to why they've been kicked. They'll get a message like, "Lol, you're a fag, get the fuck out," sort of thing. And it's just like, it's just not good. It creates a bad rap for your squadron when that sort of stuff happens. I know plenty of squadrons in game that do it. They just sort of sift through their squadrons like every few days, and then just kick the people. No warning, they'll just kick them if they don't think they're good enough, or they've done something to, I don't know, they've just done something.
Right.
They'll just be kicked.
And the last thing I'll bring up, like what I would like to see added to the squadron system, is the ability to assign individual roles to members. Whereas this player has the permission to accept applications but not deny. This person has, just being able to break up responsibilities, and instead of just having a generic officer and a generic commander, being able to get more members involved in certain ways, but making sure you're able to protect the squadron as well from an admin point of view. And like I said, all I can do is hit change grade, officer, commander, private. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, this whole squadron thing. The issues with it are all so interlinked. It's like you can't, if you fix one thing, you need to fix everything else. I mean, you can't just fix one small issue at the same time. I mean, like, I was talking here about like making sure that the officers have a role, they understand what that role is, what they have to do. You can't do that unless you can communicate. So that links in with the previous issue with not being able to talk properly in the squadron chat because you don't get notifications. Because you don't get notifications, no one wants to talk, because by the time you've noticed it, that person might be offline, they might be halfway across the world, who knows, on holiday. I mean, yeah, it's not helpful.
No.
So I mean, that's why a lot of these squadrons have separate websites. I mean, I keep coming back to this website thing, but it really is a help when you have a separate site. Sorry, separate from Gaijin, I suppose.
Yeah.
Separate site, so you can manage that aspect yourself. So you're not limited by what Gaijin's given you. You can create your own sort of custom management system, basically.
Um. Moving on to the next topic. This is something I guess I'm gonna make a comparison to World of Tanks. I know World of Tanks has been around for a lot longer, but World of Tanks, there's actually people who make a living off of doing competitive play and squadron battles. It's a much more slated tournament type style play over there. And I know War Thunder showed interest earlier this year at becoming, trying to reach that level of World of Tanks with the tournament play. And then that interest has seemed to kind of died off lately. They did enter in a recent patch something called Squadron Battles, which I know BRS was pretty heavy into that when it first started, and you guys have fallen, I think, a little bit off the ranks lately.
Yeah, we have. I mean, like when it was
26.
initially introduced, okay, there was a lot of issues with it. I mean, biggest one was the matchmaking. There was no locks between the ranks, so most people tiered up in tier 3, and a lot of the guys in our squadron wanted to get into jets, and I couldn't really tell them, no, you can't do that. So it was, yeah, we got to the top of the leaderboards, but it was rarely because we even got into a jet v jet match. It was because just shit matchmaking, and it wasn't even like we were purposely trying to get like club props because it's not fun. It just becomes a chore. It's like, oh god, matchmaker gave us proper matchmaking. It's yeah, you know.
And then, did you
But
guys ever actually win Eagles or?
yeah, the guys that did it got the Eagles. I didn't really take part because I hated the system, but the other guys were more than happy to. They found it fun. Made this new system. Uh, they've they've sort of compounded the issues of the old one and added new ones.
And then TBLF we've never even tried because, well, we just know we'd fail. Um,
Well, it's good source of
we go into
fun
tournaments
and
with
fun.
HS 129s with 75 millimeter cannons and just yell, "Come at me, bro," and then wonder what happened. But the other thing I'd say is like the outside scheduled tournaments. I've the Gladiator tournaments seem to be set up somewhat decent, but I've had no personal experience with them. I know from talking to Bismarck a little bit about the insides of that, and that still needs a little bit of work. I won't go too much into that. But TBLF did try to set up for the X-Fire tournament that was held, I believe, in January,
Yeah,
February, if I remember right. And
yeah,
holy crap, that uh that was awful. I was
yeah.
actually I kept telling people like, oh, I'm gonna post gameplay footage from our tournament. And the second it was over, I literally just formatted that hard drive with that footage on it because it was so awful. I never want to relive that again. Um,
Yeah, do you know what? That was like our first tournament as well, and we did okay. We got past like 3 rounds, but then the round we lost and got kicked out. God, it's just so. I don't. For folks who don't understand, like if you're in a squadron, there's a high competitive atmosphere in it, especially if you're in a tournament. When you lose, and if you lose in such a stupid and just bullshit way, it ruins the mood in the squadron for like a week, which is what happened to us. But it
yeah,
was the X-Fire tournament was not particularly well handled, if I'm
we
honest.
uh we had some internal issues and then we had X-Fire issues. First problem is that we had 16 people who wanted to do it. Then it became 3 people who wanted to do it. Then it became 7 people who wanted to do it, and you can only take 4. And we finally narrowed it down to a group of 4. It was Crouching Walrus, Small Evil, and Optimistic Chris and myself. We trained. We actually tried to do a little bit of training on the map that it was posted on for 16 days of the thing being posted. 15 days it was on this map, and we were trained and we were ready on this map. And then I didn't check the posting on Friday. The tournament happened like Saturday afternoon. I didn't check the posting on Friday where they changed the stupid map.
Yeah, they
So
did that.
we're all going into it thinking it's Mozdok, and it became like Battle of Britain or something with a capture point. Completely changes everything. We were set to go with German aircraft because of Mozdok doing head-ons. We were prepared to use the German cannons and blah blah blah. We get into a match. Here's the best part: hosted by Serbians. We're all American players. We're now at nothing against Serbs, but we're now connecting to them 3/4 of the way around the world, so that the matchmaking, or sorry, the hit registry is all on their side because they're using Russian servers. We're using U.S. servers, so we're having to pipe our
Yeah,
bullets across the English channel, etc. Blah blah. So we get in there, and they're all in I-185s back when that plane was beyond UFO-ish, and it was just a scramble of, all right, who the fuck has an I-185? I have an I-185. Walrus had a 185. I think Chris went in the LA-5, and then Moevel had to settle for like the stock Yak 3. It was a disaster. We get in the game and we're like, oh, look, a capture point. What do we do with that? I don't know. Let's not go near it. Let's climb. Okay. And then they take the capture point and we're bleeding tickets. And then we're like, okay, let's stay together. Let's not panic. And then you hear Optimistic Chris, we're gonna fucking lose. And he just dives straight for the point. And then it became a free for all of head ons and collisions and we lost. And
oh god.
and it was it was disastrous. So I don't think you'll see TB off any tournaments anytime soon because I'm still not emotionally uh, recovered from that experience. We were eliminated in first round.
Now you've actually shared that story. I actually feel quite happy that I wasn't as bad as that. Jesus Christ. I
Uh,
mean, this is getting off topic, but what happened in our one, the third round? We were all. I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit it because we were pretty much always up against I-185s. You can only really fight fire with fire. Okay,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, absolutely.
We were in P63s basically, and we had Wolf and another officer in the squadron in high speed dogfight, and TeamSpeak is just like we're doing like really well, communication is good, and then suddenly, bam, and it's just silence. I'm just like looking around like what the fuck's happened, and I see these two planes spiraling off each other, and I was like, oh shit, they rammed each other. Christ, these two were so into it they didn't see each other, and they rammed each other. And that was pretty much the end of it from there, basically. Yeah.
Um, so the next couple of topics, we're going to talk about what squadrons themselves should, the community, the human element should be like, but in reality, I'll share some horror stories of what it has been like for myself in different games. And then we're going to do a brief overview of BRS and TBLF and give you guys some backstory and some stories for that so you're a little bit familiar with our squadrons. I'll run through my list first, and then I'll let you see if you agree or disagree and whatnot. The first thing is, Squadrons in the Perfect World should, and this is a problem with us, TBLF, is that, you get a new app or somebody joins the squadron, they should feel welcome and, and they should get to know you and blah, blah, blah. That's not how it works at all, but, you know, and going on that point, they should, you join a squadron and you expected to be invited to squads to play with them. Um, and then you expected to be kind of advised and informed about how you're doing in the game and more knowledge in the game to expand how well you're doing. You expect to be trained and worked with to make you a better player, and then they should make you feel excited to play the game with them and work towards being able to play competitive tournaments. And then lastly, you should have fun. It never really works out with that, though.
I mean, the very last point, if you have fun, that's. I think in TBLF you guys have a lot of fun. From the YouTube videos I've seen, you guys seem to have a lot of fun. BRS, we have tons of fun, really. But I think the first point you made, what was it?
Make you feel welcome. It's so hard for, and I'll get one the history of TBLF. We've been around for, like, Kobe and I've been playing together for 10 years, and it's really hard for somebody who just joined yesterday to insert yourself into a clique of people who have been around for 5 years or more.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
Yeah, that's maybe it's not quite such an issue with us at BRS. I mean, like we started actually almost coming up to the first year since we formed, but I mean, a year isn't particularly that long, I guess, in internet gaming circles. I don't know. This is like the very first game I've actually been doing this sort of squadron stuff, but it can be difficult to get into the sort of closed friend groups that are in a squadron. But the thing you have to realize is that it's the internet. People can comment on you, they can judge you, but you're not seeing them every day. They're not in your life, so to speak.
Right.
So you just need to have some confidence. Go in there, say hi, say hello, just make conversation. It's better to make too much conversation sometimes than make none at all. I mean, there's guys in the squadron in BRS who've joined recently, maybe like 4 or 5 days, and they come on TeamSpeak. There's loads of us in the TeamSpeak channels, and they'll just sit in the one channel that's empty because they don't. I kid you not. There's like 20 of us or 15 of us online, and they just sit in the one channel that's empty, and you're like, "Come on, you just joined the squadron.
Yeah.
We don't know who you are. We want to see if you can come to us." I mean, and eventually we do have to go to them sometimes, but a little bit of initiative on the side of the person who's joining isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. And I guess I'll run through the kind of reality of squadrons. And the main thing people need to understand when they join a squadron is that you have a lot of personalities that are going to clash, and that's the main thing at TBLF that we try to do is find personalities that are like. We typically don't care how well or bad you do in a game. It's more of personality. Can we tolerate you? Do you blend? Do you have a sense of humor, and etc. Because I would rather play with somebody who has a 1 in 5, KDR versus 5 to 1. If the person's a complete asshat, I can't take it.
Yeah.
Um.
That I think more than anything that we're going to probably talk about, management, application systems, blah blah blah. If the person Like the personality of the person is important. Or it's the all important factor basically. Because it doesn't matter how well organized you are, how cleanly you can run your squadron. It only takes one person with a personality that doesn't match with anyone, or they're just a complete arsehole from day one
Yeah,
since they came out.
I have
Yeah.
numerous stories. I'll share them a bit with like I said right now, of just people who can destroy an entire nights of fun or just destroy a whole clan or squadron. We've had cases where one guy throws a fit and then takes 15 members with him. There's all kinds
Oh
of
yeah.
weird human crap that happens with these, and people just want to take stuff personal that they really shouldn't. And that's something you just have to keep in mind that you don't know where people's triggers are. And
Yeah, it's trial and error with people in squadrons. I mean, you have to sort of test out the waters, see how far you can push them. Normally, what I do is I'll squad up with someone, and whilst you're playing the game with them, you can just pick up signs of what they're going to be like around other people. Right, if they get really annoyed with the game immediately, like quickly, that's a good indication that they're going to be a little bit edgy around other people, especially if you know people in your squadron who like to have a joke. There's those sort of things like warning signs you've got to look out for just by flying with people. I mean, it's
oh,
difficult thing to manage. I
that's
mean, like, sorry, but
no,
you were talking about like how one person can pretty much split a squadron into factions or take one half of them. I'll give an example with BRS. That's quite a few months ago now, but one of our officers, he was very dedicated, incredibly dedicated to the squadron, but he just had this one problem with another officer. And it always starts off small. There's like a few words here, no things in the background there. And before you know it, there's whole factions of the squadron with one officer and another faction with another, and it circles out in a spiral out of control. And you've just got to, take the bull by the horns and say, look, one of you is leaving. It's you. I'm sorry, but it's you. That's basically what we had to do. I mean, I couldn't choose between them in
yeah.
terms of how important they were to the squadron. They were equally important, but one of them just had a more, how do you say, likable,
Yeah.
likable temperament than the other. So he won out basically.
I guess that I was gonna cover, like I said, bad leadership. I've got numerous stories over the years of just the squadron is gonna be as successful as its leadership, and unfortunately, TBLF we don't really have a like. Uh, this is the first squadron I've kind of ran that we didn't. We're trying basically we don't have a real leadership. Technically this whole thing is Kobe is the title on the squadron, but basically we're just trying to go for a group of friends and like-minded people. We don't take anything too serious, and basically because Kobe and we basically came to the same agreement over the years of just bad leadership just drives away people faster than you'd ever believe. I used to be part of a squad or clan that we were top 10 Battlefield 2 server for a couple of years, and um, ranged between 40 to 60 dedicated members and whatnot. But once you have the top leadership go kind of crazy nuts, everything changes and nobody enjoys themselves.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just the reality when you join a squadron that you may have a complete nutbag who is trying to micromanage everybody below him.
Okay. As soon as you said that, I've already got images of squadrons in my head, just names flashing by me. There's so many in War Thunder where they're just complete assholes. The commanders, the members themselves are nice, but just the commanders are complete knobheads of like the highest grade, basically.
Um, and a couple,
And
yeah. And the
yeah,
next thing I want to mention, I think people should really expect when they join a squadron is I've seen this way too many times over the years. You're gonna have horrible egos you deal with people thinking they're the best or blah blah, and that's anywhere you go in life. But the main thing I kind of found shocking over the years is how much racism, at least for the United States, of players I ran into. And I don't mind, like you hear some of the racist jokes, or I don't know how I would say it, not racist jokes, but
Sure,
and the
it's banter
in the
basically.
videos that we do a little bit of banter back and forth, and like poor Firefly hears like 100 Polish jokes when he's on, and then we say about 150 more when he's off. And we're just kind of, I guess you call it bantering. But then I've had to ban people that like every fifth word is a racial slur, and it's like, really, dude? Um, okay, bye. It's just it's shocking, but
Yeah,
so
some people can take it a bit too far.
a-
Bit too far.
and so even if you're trying to be funny, it's just you have to. This is something you have to be aware of. Um, and the last thing
I
I'll
mean,
say,
yeah.
honestly, for TBLF is with the current way the squadron system works. Like I said, we have 45 members. There's probably about 15 of them that I've never actually played with that have been accepted or grandfathered in by other people. I've never chatted with probably 10 of them. 5 of them I've said, oh, hey, blah, blah, and then either I accepted them or somebody else accepted them. And I see them on playing, but I've never actually squatted with them. And I think that's kind of a shame, like I said, with the War Thunder current squadron system, is that it's really easy to fall through the cracks of War Thunder squadrons.
I mean, you can't have people there just babysitting, just sitting at the screen waiting for someone to come online and just say, "Hey, how are you?" I mean, it doesn't work like that. It has to be an easier way of just messaging people and communicating with them. Saying, "Do you know what? Maybe you should get on TeamSpeak. Maybe you should be on the website. Interact." But it's difficult
Yeah,
with the current system anyway.
I'm not going to hunt down people and say, what are you doing? What are you playing?
Yeah,
I'm not going to
because
say you should be flying a Spitfire Mark 9 right now with the squadron. Get on TeamSpeak or yeah, I'm never going to do that. So, I'm just saying it's a lot of people think when they apply for TBLF on, they see us on YouTube and whatnot. I'm glad that people want to, play with us, but the reality is like I said, um, there's just not enough hours in the day, and there's no. It's really hard for people to network with other TBLF members to play with each other. Anyway, it's kind of a shame. I'll say that.
yeah, I mean that's another aspect of at least that I've seen with TBLF. I mean, because you guys have got a pretty successful YouTube channel. You get a lot of views and people love your videos and stuff. I think right. I was watching your most recent. I think it was the fail montage 15.
16, I think. I don't even
I
know
had
what
a
we're
little
on.
bit of I had like a tiny role in that where you went inches to my wing and I immediately dived down.
Well, that was payback from when you rammed an LA5 into my L2. I
That.
told you I remember.
Oh yeah.
um,
Lol, yeah, I remember that.
no, but TBLF has a core, like I said, that goes back 10 years, and it's really hard for, like I said, an outsider to come in and kind of be accepted into that. And I'm aware of it. Like I said, it's just one of those things that people have to be assertive. And Optimistic Chris is a fairly new person who's in our kind of circle, and it took him like 5 or 6 months of playing with us every week before he finally kind of fit in with the crowd. So it's just something that you have to kind of dedicate yourself and work to know somebody and to kind of be accepted into the, I guess, family, if you want to say that.
Yeah, it does become a family. I mean, like, they got a few of the guys in the squadron who have been here since pretty much the beginning. I've got them on Facebook. We have conversations sometimes just about random things, life, or sometimes I'll tell you what. I was actually in an exam and I forgot to turn my phone off, and someone from the squadron was messaging me on Facebook, and like every 10 seconds you could just hear this beep, 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 and I'm like, stop, no. And it's just it's shit like that that makes squadrons. It can make squadrons fun as long as you don't get caught in the exam. Do not take your phone into an exam hall. I learned that mistake.
Yeah.
Jeez. Um,
Last
yeah,
point
sorry.
I want to bring up about the reality of squadrons is that if you're joining a squadron for competitive play, um, I'm going to share a couple of stories and that there's people out there. There's a couple squadrons. I'm not going to name any squadrons in this podcast. I don't want to try to bash anybody, but there are squadrons out there who are super competitive, and I understand that there's people who are looking for that. Personally, TBL will probably never be that, and I thought I'd share a couple of stories with you guys. About 4 years ago now, 5 years ago, I actually used to play Left 4 Dead on Major League Gaming, and I wasn't trying to go professional or anything, but we had a group of so stupid now called Four on the Floor, and we play competitively across teams of different countries, and it was a lot of fun at first. And then it was the more success you had, the more hours you put into it. And I was working a job about 40 to 60 hours a week at the time. And I come home and play fucking Left 4 Dead for another 8 to 16 hours or 20 hours a week. And there's a point where that game doesn't become a game anymore, but like a job, and you're looking at the software and you're like, well, how can we abuse this glitch? Or how can we crash the game like this? Or does anybody have the router that puts in 15 seconds of lag so we can, and it's not necessarily hacking, it's just what everybody does in Major League Gaming. And then it becomes to a point where it's no longer a game, it's like you're trying to
Yeah.
exploit, you know, a piece of
I've
software.
heard,
And
I've heard a lot of stories like that about MLG. It's a bit too pro, I'd say.
And there is Squadrons, like I said, I won't list any names, but I hope the motherfucker knows who he is, who sits on the runway for a year or two, and every time you try to, he just sits on the runway and then tries to strafe you. The second you go at him, he goes back into hangar. And it's one squadron who loves to do that, and that's the type of exploitation crap that you can kind of come to expect when you go into competitive play.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give another example. I mean, like it's actually a fairly recent one. With the last iteration of Squadron battles for the patch, we got accused at BRS by. I'm just going to be general here to say like a bunch of just radical nutjob Russian, Serbian, Hungarian. I don't know what they are squadrons. We just got accused of picking on Russians and whatever nationalities they were purposely because of that, and we were clubbing their props. And I kid you not, I got the most detailed hate message I've ever seen. It was like a bloody thesis. It was a thesis written totally in Russian. I was sort of having to decipher it in Google Translate, but Jesus, he put a lot of effort into that. It's just like it gets to a point like, you know, calm down. It's a game. You have to remember, you're here for fun.
Yeah, unfortunately, even if you think if you are really good at War Thunder, and then you're like, well, how do I rate against other players, and you want to see if you're as good as you think you are. Fortunately, in online gaming, when you go to that next level, it's not about how good you are. It's about how I don't know how to say this, how much you're willing to sell your soul into filth and greed to get it.
Pretty much.
Um,
Pretty much.
and,
It just comes to the stage where you're rated less on how your actual skills as a gamer, more just about how you can exploit the various loops and holes in the system.
and in War Thunder, there's a lot of loops and holes.
Oh yeah, it's like a bloody sieve. It's like holes everywhere. But that's what I'm starting to see in Squadron battles. It's just getting to the point where we're having to find each and every little hole, and I just told the guys, I just told them, just stop. I don't care if we go down the rankings, but just stop. We don't want to be associated with having to find loops and holes in every little thing and take advantage of it. Because I know other squadrons do that. The ones that are at the top right now of the leaderboard, you see their scores, and there's only one way they've done that.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like squadron battles. There was an issue with boosting. Like certain squadrons would use their like sort of. I guess it's like sister squadrons.
Well, absolutely. When you have that big of a reward, if you have a squadron of 4 players in it with another squadron, well, why am I saying this out loud? Because people are going to do it, and then I'm going to get banned from Gaijin. Never mind.
No, you might as well say it.
No.
I don't really care if it's... I'll say it. Then people can hate me then. But basically, you just had like a squadron of, say, I don't know, like Dog 1 and like a sister squadron of Dog 2, and they'd fight each other. But it would be pre-planned, and Dog 2 would purposely lose every time to Dog 1, just to purposely allow them to climb up the rankings. And I saw that happening. And it's just disgusting that Gaijin could have even allowed that that big of a loophole to happen.
Yep. Squadron play, everybody.
Yeah. So, you have to sort of balance it with your own self-respect, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm...
But do you want... as a commander, as an officer, do you want your squadron? Are you satisfied that your squadron is doing that sort of stuff? Are you happy? Are you contented that this is what you wanted your squadron to do or to become? And personally, it's just a big fat no from me. I'd rather go down the rankings to last place than do that.
That's where we are.
Hey,
um,
be friends.
all right. So I guess now we're at the point where I will let you go ahead and explain a little bit of history and what BRS is about for those out there who are interested in possibly joining or looking for a squadron. And then I will give kind of the backstory to TBLF because some people have asked on the channel and whatnot. So I'll let you go ahead before I get into a lengthy story.
Oh, sorry. What? Oh, jeez, the one time I wasn't paying attention.
What is BRS about? What is kind of your requirements? What's the history of it and whatnot?
BRS. What is it about? Right. Basically, when we first formed BRS, let me just find the date of when we actually formed it. All right. We formed it on the 17th of the 6th. What's that? Like 17th of June? Yeah, 17th of June. So it's coming up this month, basically. It was basically we met all in arcade. Like when we first started the game, we were just a bunch of newbies flying around, dicking around back in like 1.27, 1.29, and we made the squadron for the sole purpose of having fun. We, we as individuals, as a clan, we all sort of banded together to honor fun because that's what gaming's about. When you take away all the layers of bullshit and hatred and cheating and all MLG shit, it's just fun. That's what you want. So we've sort of dedicated ourselves to just preserving that. And along the way, it's got more complicated. There've been ups and downs, plenty of downs. It's just so hard. I mean, it's like one of the things I can't really explain BRS in just words. I'd end up writing an essay about it, but
Yeah, it's and it's one of the few squadrons there's some other squadrons I'll play with, but it's you guys seem to be kind of in a how to say it, the mainstream kind of middle of the how to put it middle of the road. Not too serious, but you have quality players. But you're not running a camp to train
we're not just
109
like
pilots.
We're not just like going through a squadron purging all the bad players and like we want pro elite players. But we want quality players, but like TBLF, you can't just have the personality of a plank of wood.
So TBLF, this is gonna date back several years. TBLF originally started because of we used to play Battlefield 2, a lot of us, and a lot of some of the TBLF members you see were actually friends back in high school. We were the nerds who played Halo 3 times a week at LAN parties and so on. And then we got into Battlefield 2 when we were in college, and a lot of us moved around the country, so kind of Battlefield 2 is how we played. We were all pretty poor at the time, just getting out of high school, and so we played Battlefield 2 with a clan that cost about $10 to $15 a membership a month, but we couldn't afford it. So we came up with our own clan name to fight them on their server, and that was TBLF. And TBLF came from one of the guys. We had a terrorist class together, and we had to come up with a fake terrorist organization and a cause. And Taco Bell took away the spicy chicken menu for 99 cents. So that's how it all started.
You know what? That's a better naming system than what we used. Because basically we just named it after one person. Basically, there's a guy in the squadron, Blood Dragoon. He's like a Malaysian guy.
Okay.
He's such a quiet guy, but if you poked him enough times, God, it was hilarious. So we decided, you know what, Blood Red Squadron. It was supposed to be Bloody Red Squadron, but I misspelled it.
I was wondering why it's Bloody Red here, but then Blood Red there. Good job.
And do you know what? That's the other point. It cost 2,500 golden eagles just to put a fucking Y on the end of blood.
Yeah, because we almost changed TBLF to the Boomerang Elite Squadron or something. Yes, or the Boomerang Elite Formation. I don't know, something stupid once. And I was like, yeah, Firefly ain't happening for $15.
God, you guys come up with like the best names.
So then from there we eventually joined that huge clan, and that's where I met Kobe. And Kobe flies about as worse in Battlefield 2 and every other game I've known him as in War Thunder. He'd literally be the guy who requesting pickup, and he'd show up in a transport helicopter. I'm here, guys. Land the thing on its nose, flip over, and kill 6 of us. And so, like I said, if I started doing YouTube videos of Kobe back then, I'd be rich. I'd be total biscuit money. So one thing I say though is that a lot of people don't realize is when we were in the huge clan, we played a ton of games. Like I said, Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2, TF2, Borderlands, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, etc. Is there's a lot of money and time that goes into running squadrons and clans, and um, the financial cost. I don't even want to know how much personal money I spent on servers and server boxes and TeamSpeaks and web servers and video editing equipment and et cetera, et cetera. And I love to do this stuff. That's why I did it. But at a certain point, you just get burnt out from the working with other leadership and the members and trying to stop stupid quails and somebody gets drunk and it's this drama that just kind of adds up and you easily get burnt out. And that's why we kind of left that clan. I like to say we're all still friends, but it was this time to kind of move on, and that's why TBLF is the kind of laid back clan it is because we're just we're here to game. We're not here to be a human resources department.
Yeah, and you got to be careful. Like if you're interested in making a squadron or you're running a squadron right now that's fairly new or even fairly old, just have a look at it and say, are you managing people more than you're actually playing the game, having fun, and playing with each other? Because if you are, then you're doing something wrong.
And then for War Thunder, like I said, we didn't want to use that clan name, so that's when we defaulted back to the TBLF name. That's how it got resurrected. And it's just like I said, it's just a group of friends. You have Kobe. We met Walrus and Daisy. That's an absolute fucking hilarious story I gotta share someday. We met Chris and like Arma too. Like we just picked up people. Like I think every person in this TeamSpeak has picked up uh, from one game or another, and we just kind of met each other. There's one guy here, Jurassic Sushi. I absolutely love him. He's actually featured in some of my Arma videos. He joined my
What's his name?
Jurassic Sushi. Yeah, he loves sushi and loves dinosaurs, so that's his name, Jurassic Sushi. He's from Brooklyn, New York, and we're playing Borderlands, and he just randomly joined my best friend and I's game, and he comes in and he goes, "Yo, what you guys doing over there?" And we're like, "Oh my God, do we trust this guy?" And he's like, "Yo, let me see your shields and your guns. Oh, that's garbage. Throw it away." And then he just started giving us some guns, and then we've been like best friends for 4, 5, 6 years now. And I mean, it's just like it's just somebody I consider a real life friend now. But it's just funny how some of these
Yeah,
stupid online people you meet actually become life acquaintances.
yeah. But friendships do develop. I mean, contrary to popular belief, there are nice people on the internet.
Yeah. So TBLF, we originally started it because when they brought out Squadrons, they said that if the 4 people per squad thing kind of sucks, and we would have 5 or 6 people, and we're like, well, if we buy a Squadron, Gaijin says that Matchmaker will allow it so that there'd be a higher chance of the 2 squads being put together on the same side if you queue with the same tier and battle rating and blah blah. I don't believe anything about Matchmaker anymore. But
No.
that's originally why we started it, and then we let kind of people in as the channel kind of grew and people joined TBLF. And I'll get real quick to why there's an 18 plus and older policy is because we had some,
Yeah.
and I hate to just generalize people, but 18 years old and older is that kind of age where you graduate high school, you have to pay for your car, you have to pay for rent, you're held accountable for your actions in life, and so there's that certain maturity that should come from 18 years and older. There are some guys there that have been 16, 17 that have been absolutely awesome and have been better than the 35-year-olds here. But it's 18 years old for that most part. It's kind of that cutoff of where people stop acting like asshats. And I'm not saying that all minors are asshats, but
Yeah, they can start to grate. I mean, this is a theme that I've seen. I won't call it a generalization. It's more of a theme that I've noticed that when you have younger kids, they tend to not know when to stop talking.
yeah, that's a big thing.
So it was just keep motor mouth basically. And you can't go full internet on them, as I like to say. You can't just tell them to piss off. You have to be nice to them because they're younger, so they're going to be a little bit more sensitive to this sort of stuff. So all right, kid, cool, you're enthusiastic, but slow down a bit. But eventually, you just gotta let them go.
And the other problem, I'll say this real quick, with having minors, and that's why any clan I've been part of, the problem with minors is that when you have financial commitments with, like I said, $15 for the squadron, we pay like $10, $15 a month for TeamSpeak, and then you guys have a website and so on, you kind of need that financial backing from your membership, and if everybody is 12 years old and under, they need their allowance for Power Rangers and not server. So,
It's not Power Rangers anymore. It's like
oh,
fucking
sorry,
Justin
I'm
Bieber or
old,
some stupid
so
shit.
whatever. Uh, but I like to say though that like I said, we're as you can tell, we're all about no drama and compatible personalities. I kind of mentioned that quite a bit. And when it comes to compatible personalities, we've had a lot of good members over TVOF, and I like to, just a couple of shout outs to Bacon Rush and Lucky Strike who've moved on to other squadrons, and I hope they found somewhere where they've integrated into. Even though, like I said, even I've had to kick the miners because they kind of ruined it for everybody else, but we've even had good members that I hope they've moved on and found somewhere where they kind of fit in because, like I said, it's just, there's a human element that sometimes it just doesn't work out for one reason or another. And doesn't mean that, people are bad either.
Yeah, I mean, some people. It's just like people say. Some people are just made to be friends with other people, and other people aren't. You know, it's just a fact. You got to work your way around it. Basically, you can't be too. You can't be get too attached to people. I'll say that much. Don't get overly attached. Because if they're doing something wrong in the squadron or on behalf of the squadron, you can't be like all sensitive and pushy about it. You've got to just get straight to the point, get straight to the crux of the matter and sort it out.
Yeah, I've had to kick
You
people.
can't take prisoners.
I've had to kick people that were generally loved by half of the group and then hated by the other half. But like I said, when it comes to racism and disrespect, you just, it's fucking people. That's all I can keep saying. um,
People are assholes.
So one thing that I'll say though, War Thunder, another kind of thing that's missing that would really help this game in the right direction is a better system for people to network and find squadrons that fit them. And like I said, and I'll hit it right quick. You go to squadrons, and this is all you see is names, and you can say, oh, well, this one's the leaderboard of arcade, or this one's the leaderboard of realistic, or this one's the leaderboard of simulator. Or you hear about it from another person, but there's no way to see what a squadron's really about. And it'd be a simple thing as like saying, please file us under we play RB or we play tanks. I know there's some squadrons out there who are nothing but bombers. There's some squadrons out there who roleplay that they're jolly old Rogers, fighter wing. Uh, there's, so on. So it'd be kind of nice if there was a way to classify squadrons so when people are searching through it, you can at least have a better chance at finding a squadron that you're interested in, especially like some squadrons might just play British. It'd be nice to say our primary uh, tech tree is the British tech tree or whatnot. Or I'm from the United States. Would you like to play with other people from the United States? That's kind of a big deal too. Even though TBLF is about 15% German and they speak better English than we do. But anyway, um,
The Germans do. It's just a fact, basically.
yeah. Anyway, so the only way, and I guess say if you are looking for a squadron, the only system that kind of works is that you go to the forums and you dig through about 2,000 postings of squadrons. About 500 of those aren't even in existence anymore.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's very little cleaning up, or there's little housekeeping on the forums when it comes to squadrons.
I guess I will put out one squadron because it's kind of a joke with me. And I remember that one day you had a CY6 guy in your team speak, and I kind of made fun of it.
Yeah.
When Squadrons first started, CY6 was massive, absolutely massive. And every game they used to scream CY6 Best Squad 2K13. And then since then, CY6 I think is like 10 members, 15 members, and I don't have any problems with actual CY6 members. I just have. It was just funny that they kept screaming CY6 Best Squad 2K13. So now, of course, I continue on. Every time I see a rare CY6 member out there, I'll yell CY6 Best Squad 2K14. And they find it funny because most of them know what I'm referencing, but it's unfortunate because like you'll see CY6 on the forums has like 22 pages or something, but they're not even really around anymore, which is kind of a shame. But
That's actually a good point you've brought up CY6, because we've on our website there's a guy from CY6 who's registered, and he's just there. He likes to chat with us, whatever. And he was telling me what happened to CY6, and basically it's the squadron just got split in half by just factions. It's the same thing we were talking about earlier. It was just factions developing within a squadron, and there's no communication to tell like the commanders or the officers what's going on, and it basically just fragmented basically. So
last time I checked, I think he's actually the commander of CY6 now. possibly by default. I don't know if enough people left in front of him that he became.
I think the actual commander of CY6 did leave because he just got so fed up of the situation. But he's playing Battlefield now. I think. I mean, this is actually a shout out. He's playing Battlefield now. I think, but the guy from CY6 I'm talking to is a gorilla.
Yeah, 300-pound gorilla. I think he's actually the commander now of that, if I remember right.
Okay.
Now I'm searching. Now I have to see this. See.
I think he was either the officer or he's become the commander. Or I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually talked to him, but
He's now a commander.
oh, okay. Well,
Anyway.
Congratulations.
So, have at it. I mean, like I said, squadrons come and go, and I guess that kind of brings up the next point is you'll see a lot of hate, and I'm not going to mention any other names besides CY6, but you'll see a lot of hate between squadrons, or a lot of players jumping between squadrons, and there's kind of one famous person that's done that a lot that's I've never actually met or have any problem with, but I know he has a huge target on his back, and probably rightfully so. And then you have YouTubers who have squadrons who kind of, and this is why TBLF, I'll never really open it to the public again, is because you have, anybody can just join, oh, I'm with this. Then it's nice that you support that channel, but also your in-game actions like ramming and team killing and, cussing people out and cussing their mothers out represents that squadron, which is why I can't just open TBLF to everybody. It's because you're representing the other members who you don't see on the channel who, play the game right. I guess what I'm trying to say. And I'm not going to allow their name to be tarnished because of that.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a very big problem. I mean, like, it only takes one person, and it'll affect the entire squadron, all the other members. I mean, I know for one instance, fairly recently, one member he team killed a member of another squadron, basically for a kill steal. Big whoop happens.
Yeah.
But obviously, this person took offense to it. He told his entire squadron, and apparently now that squadron has some sort of massive unofficial war with BRS that we really don't give two shits about. And it's happening that BRS members are just getting team killed for no reason. They take off, then they get team killed.
There's some of the other top squadrons that I know. I've seen them actually get team killed. They'll spawn, did nothing wrong to the team, but they'll just be murdered because they have that, 3 or 4 letter squadron name in front of them.
And I hate to point fingers at like nationalities, but it's usually the Russians. It usually is.
That's somewhat a cultural thing too, and the language barrier, and like I said, I mentioned before on this channel, it's it's hard. International, you're gonna have issues.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually another good thing. It's good to have a mix of people in a squadron. It's good. At least that's what my opinion of it is. It's nice to have a lot of nationalities. I mean, we have a bunch of Scandinavians, we have like Estonians, we have guys from Cyprus, all over the place, and it just helps build up that sort of cultural understanding between people. There's a sharing of knowledge, a sharing of cultures between people that just happens naturally. So it's a nice thing to have a multicultural.
I'll say this: Kobe keeps winning Canadians because he wants them to send him Tim Hortons. But anyway. If you want to be, if you're in Canada and you want to be Kobe's hero, send him Tim Hortons and he'll love you forever. But it's fair. It's unfair because, like I said, I've known some guys and the top leadership of one of the bigger squadrons that's formed the past couple months. The top 5 or 6 guys are actually nice guys who I don't mind playing with. I have a rapport with. But then the 80 members in the squadron, most of them I despise. But it's sad because how those 80 members act as a whole. Tarnish the name of the 4 or 5 others who have been playing the game for a long time and have credibility, but their credibility I feel is being destroyed by the newcomers.
That's the thing. That links into back to where I was saying you cannot take prisoners. If you took making the squadron seriously enough, you're not going to let people screw around with that. Take no prisoners. Tell them the issue. Tell them what you expect. What it means to be in your squadron, what it means to be in your clan. If they can't live with that, what they say, the usual thing is, oh, you take it too seriously.
Right.
Like, no, fuck you. It's about being a nice person, not just taking it seriously.
No, fuck you. It's about being nice.
Yeah, essentially. I have actually used that before, and it worked.
Um, like I said though, it's just people naturally want to generalize, and then when you see that squadron name tag in front of them, you generalize that that person's an asshole or etc. because of something else another person from that squadron did, and it's not fair, but that's just how that's the reality of online gaming and squadrons and clan tags. So um, and
Yeah,
sometimes
I mean,
you have every right to be pissed off at that person even though you've never seen them before.
yeah, I mean, it's again, you can't be too attached to it, unlike other squadrons, but it's just some. It's like you see the tide coming in and out. Hate comes in, the hate comes out. Tide goes in, tide goes out. It just happens over the daily running of a squadron, basically.
And the last two couple points I want to bring up is people when you look for a squad, there you really need to, like I said, um, you need to find, and I know, for instance, I know Bacon Rush. I don't know if he's still with them or not, but he found a squadron. He's from the state of Wisconsin in the states. He actually found a Wisconsin-based squad, which I think is really cool, and to find kind of some of that local stuff. And if you're able to find kind of that squadron for that niche you want, that's what you really should look out there for. I don't think people should migrate to the biggest squadron out there because typically those are the ones that crack apart and die. You kind of need to find that one where you socially kind of you're accepted and you also like being there is your goal. So like I said, you need to find. I think one problem people have is when they join squadrons, a lot of new players. I know for a fact, and the reason why, like, I'll see people who apply for TBLF that have like a rank 10 or lower, and I'll usually instantly deny those or tell the other officers to deny them because whatever guys are flying meteors, vampires, TA-152s, panthers, sabers, ME-163s, ME-262s, etc. What are your Falco is not going to find a game with us, and I hate to say it, but um, there are some probably newer squadrons out there for lower tier players, and that's you're going to learn a lot more and grow with them more than being dragged in and never playing with us.
Yeah, it's more for the good of the person sometimes that you reject them rather than just the good of the squadron because if someone at that lower rank applies, sorry, they're not going to have a fun time. They're just going to sit there sidelined. They're just going to be bench warmers essentially.
Yeah,
They won't be able to fly the tiers that usually the guys are flying out, whatever tier they're flying at. So yeah, you got to take that into consideration.
like I said, if you get rejected from TBLF because of your hours, it's not because of we don't. You might be a good player or you might become a great player, but we really have nothing to offer you, and I really think you'll grow and have a better enjoyment of the game elsewhere. Like I said, I hope people realize it's for the betterment of you, uh, than it is us.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, like, as much it is about what you want from a squadron, it's also what the squadron wants from you. Because normally, like, normally you'll see some sort of description, like saying, "Oh, we're this and this. We're looking for this and this." Take that into account. Don't just say, "Oh, look, squadron apply," and don't read it. Read it, because it's there for a reason. They're giving you the requirements of what they want from a person, what you should expect from them.
So
So it works both ways.
yeah, and to wrap all this up, I put together a list of kind of two sections here of if you're joining a squadron or if you're in a squadron and you want life to be easier for you and want to get the most out of a squad, I put together tips from just like I said, me online gaming since like 2003 or whatever of stuff I've seen over the years, and and you don't want to be that guy. I kind of put together this like top 15 list of things that personally piss me off that I wish people wouldn't do, and if I could, if you could go back and redo it all again, this is kind of my advice to you. If you want to get into a squadron, this is the number one thing that pisses me off that will never get you in the TBLF. Messaging me, hey, let me in the TBLF. Because it automatically tells me that you feel entitled, which then tells me you're probably a minor, and I don't even need to read more into this. You didn't pay the $15 for the squadron. You haven't put in the time like these other guys have into the squadron, and I don't know you. And if you just say, hey, let me in the TBLF, 99.9% of the time I'm gonna say no because I don't even want to deal with you. Um, and like I said, and that kind of deals with the disrespect thing. Like I said, you won't if you disrespect myself or somebody else I know, you won't get shut down any faster than that. Because like I said, most of these guys in TBLF I've known for years and years and years and years now, and some of them, like I said, on a personal level.
It's a close group.
Yeah, and it's this, it's in it. Most of the groups you're going to be going into, people already know each other and respect each other, and if you disrespect somebody over something they said or something they did, you're going to get shunned quickly. The third thing, and I hate to mention
Yeah.
it, racism. I've had like I said, I brought this up again. I've had so many ordeals where I've had to ban and kick people due to racism. It's stupid, um, and you don't know where people's lines are with the bantering and the jokes and this and that. And it's like I said, and we've had some awful racist jokes in here, but most people are okay with it. But then if you start throwing around slang, that'll get you kicked out of here in 2 seconds. And it said each group kind of has that line. And this is 2014, where the civil rights was a long time ago in this country, in the U.S. It's time to move on and not be a hateful
You know,
bigot.
yeah, it's not the fucking like Confederate versus Union. We're not in those days still. Come on,
But there's people I met who still think that.
Well, yeah, the world is a funny place. You do meet a lot of strange people. I mean, I think way back when BRS first started, I ran into who was it? I ran into a Pakistani guy. I was amazed. I didn't even know there were like people from Southeast Asia even playing this game, apart from like the Chinese and all them. I didn't even know there were Indians or Pakistan playing the game. And this guy was so unbelievably offensive and racist towards Indians. I was just sitting there, mouth open, and he asked me, "Are you Indian?" After he'd said all this, and I was just like, are you having a giggle right now? Get the fuck out of my face!"
God.
It's just no racism. We're the
So
same
yeah, I
everyone-
said
well, we've already
just
said more,
it's just something that I feel like I don't have to mention, but then I've had to right click and ban people over it multiple times. So the other thing, like, and you've mentioned this, is when I've had, and some of it's minors and some of it's older guys who will join a squad. We don't know you, and they talk a million miles a minute. I have no idea who you are, but I felt like I just known your sister, your brother, your 3 illegitimate children, your grandmother, your dead grandfather, and then you own 5 cats, and oh my God, you put YouTube videos of your cats, and this, I'm actually talking about real people here. And oh wow, and your cat had 200,000 views on YouTube, and you made $6, and I just met you 10 minutes ago. What the hell is happening? Um, and so please don't be that person, because you will, like I said, you will instantly get shot out of a group if you just go 100 miles a minute. There'll be plenty of time to know you. Just please don't tell me your life story, the first time you join the TeamSpeak. And the second thing is that really irritates people is the war stories. And I understand people want to, say, hey, I just had a great round, I had 5 kills. The problem is that I have people who want to, and they'll do 2 things either. They'll be playing game and they'll say, I'm in a Panzer, I'm in a Panzer. Ooh, there's a tree on my left and a tree on my right. Ooh, some pretty flowers. Ooh, an airplane flew over me. And it's a fucking NASCAR play-by-play. Oh, there's a tank passing me on the left, tank passing me on the right. I'm gonna, it's like, I don't care. I'm not even in your game. Why are you telling me all this? And then there'll be somebody who would tell you about a game that happened 3 months ago, and every detail, the color of their plane, it was at 6 p.m. at night and on the 5th day, and it's like nobody cares.
And it reads sort of like a Wordsworth novel.
Right, and I'm not trying to be mean, but that just it really gets you shut out of a group really fast when you just go over that line. And like I said, have confidence when you join a group, and feel free to express yourself, but don't
be mindful of the type of people in there.
Right. And sometimes
show a little bit of caution.
Another thing, yeah, sometimes we'll be in a squadron playing a game. I'll be in the middle of, like, oh yeah, you got a bogey 6, and then the person will be like, I love cats, and it's like, okay, like just be mindful. And
he died loving cats.
And this is more of a TeamSpeak etiquette, and I'm going to do a couple examples here. We have people who have joined, and this is you throw Canadian under the bus. We used to play DayZ. This is the most extreme example I have of this. Hot miking. You want to be hated by all? I've had people who have had their girlfriends yelling at them across their house, and then they get up out of their chair, and then they're arguing, and then there's shit flying, and you're like, okay, this is really happening. And so there's 6 other people in TeamSpeak listening to, fucking a domestic violence dispute going on. The Canadian I mentioned, he actually, every time an airplane flew over his house, we heard it, but he couldn't hear it. So I'm like, yep, Flight 595 just arrived. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what are you using as a microphone? He goes, oh, it's my iPhone 4. And it just...
So, has he left his phone like on the runway outside the airport?
Yeah. So there's that extreme. And then, I've actually, back in Battlefield 2 days, there's actually somebody joined our channel masturbating. I hope the God he was trolling us.
What?
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
What?
masturbating on his microphone. So,
You see, I thought that sort of shit was just like an internet legend.
no, it's happened to me. So, like I said, just have some fucking common sense when it comes to TeamSpeak etiquette. The other one I love is back to hot miking. Nothing pisses me off more than somebody who has the mic 3 inches from their face and you hear, and yeah, I'll just mute you, especially when I'm trying to record, YouTube, and I've got Darth Vader having an asthma attack going on in the video. So, like I said, just check your microphone. TeamSpeak has some configuration wizards. Check that stuff before you join and talk to people, because that's just, be a decent person and make sure your shit works right before you join them. And press to talk, is like the most underused feature ever in TeamSpeak. Your stuff doesn't work, use press to talk.
I mean, push to talk's good, but you gotta set the button correct, because like the idiot I am, I put it right next to my engine cutoff button. But every time I wanted to talk, I would accidentally hit the engine cutoff button.
Oh, I'm laughing. I have a friend who plays on TBF called Late Sauce, and he's actually an active member of the Air Force who does air traffic control in Texas. And yeah, and then I'm going to tell you why you should all fear the American military next. He put his push to talk button the same as his rocket button, so he was in IL-2 with 8 rockets on the runway, and he goes, hey guys, I'm taking off. Fired the entire solo of rockets and took out 3 friendly planes on the other side of the runway. So, yeah, so make sure your push to talk isn't attached to the engine or ordnance.
Yeah, or just use voice activation, but be careful. They have test buttons for a reason. Test these things. Make sure it's not gonna deafen people.
And the last point I bring up of what not to do, I've removed people, and I guess the thing I'll say this is when you're playing with a squadron, everybody kill steals in War Thunder, but when you kill steal from a squadron mate, shit will hit the fan faster than you've ever believed. And I've had the problem with my game a few patches ago where actually squadron people, this is the part that sucks about War Thunder, is that you get rewarded for the kill, you don't get rewarded for teamwork. So if you have 2 teammates booming, zooming the same target, or 2 teammates attacking the same target, you have to play that role of patience, let him do his attack, and then once he gets clear, and if the plane is not going down or critical, you come back in for, then you attack, right? Like there's that balance of knowing when to be a teammate, or the balance of, not kill stealing. My stupid game would not tell me people were being critical, so I'd have a squadron mate critical somebody, and then I not see it, and then I come in and critical him and get the kill, and then, I'd have to be apologizing my ass off. It's just something be mindful of.
There are maybe, from what I'm thinking about now, there's possibly 2 ways around that. Either as a squadron, you decide and you make sure people know that they're okay, that this kill stealing, English please, kill stealing happens in a squadron. They either suck it up and it's just a kill. You play this game how many hours? 1 kill is not going to hurt you, although I have raged at members for doing that. it's either you work around it with understanding between the members, or Gaijin could actually pull their fingers out their arse and
New system.
pick, yeah,
Well,
a new system of
back
how
example, last
to
person I almost
register
fucking
players.
picked up my monitor and threw was I worked on killing this B-17, worked on killing this B-17, fifth pass, I get two engines on fire. His wing snaps off and he's falling over to the ground, and then this stupid Spitfire in my squad flies up to him, puts five 303s into his back, gets a crit on his elevator, and then flies off and he gets a kill, and I go, I pretty much had that handled, and he goes, nah man, I need the RP more than you do. And I'm like, you could have asked. You know, like just like I mean that's how drama gets started right there. Just simple shit like that.
I mean, a lot of the things that we've gone through, like in this little list, is just basic manners. You know, basic manners and being aware of the people you're with.
But you have to say
Um,
this stuff because nobody gets
yeah,
this through their thick skulls. And
yeah, it's just like people not reading the requirements for joining a squadron when joining a squadron. You tell them to do that.
and then my list of things to be accepted is, and if you want to like, you know, if you happen to get accepted by TBLF, I'll use this as advice for you. And if you get accepted to any other squadron, the first thing you should do if you want to be accepted is like he just read the fucking description and then introduce yourself. You know, send an application and then message one of the commander's officers saying, "Hey, my name is blah blah. I'm this. I'm this age. I live in this country. I speak this language. I'm currently at I fly this and just give some information and why you'd like to join their squadron, and that'll go so much further than just dropping an application and hoping in 2 or 3 days if you're accepted or rejected."
Yeah. I mean, if I could just sort of plug BRS recruitment here, I mean, on our website we actually have an application form. I know it sounds like all real serious, but if you actually go and read it, it makes sense. You know, it's there for a reason. We don't just do it based off stats. We do it based on. It literally is a self-assessment form. There is a self-assessment form there. How do people rate themselves? Because the way people type that self-assessment form tells you a lot about their personality. Because you'll see some people, because the way I've done this form, there's an example above it of how to fill out the assessment form. Some people will literally copy and paste every word, and you can just tell that these are the laziest fucks in human history.
That's what I would do.
And okay, thanks.
No problem. That's how I fill out forms for the government. So
Well, okay, the government and the game. Okay, maybe that's the same thing. Or whatever. Point is that you can tell a lot about how people fill out an assessment form. Some people will just copy and paste because they're lazy and they can't be bothered. Some people will do a little bit of an effort, but you can tell their heart's not really in it. They're not too serious about it. And then you just have like these eureka people that actually take the time, they think about it, they evaluate themselves, they have a bit of humor, and it's just like jackpot.
right.
I mean, sometimes that is more important than the stats because you know that person's a winner if you get him in your squadron.
And the second thing, like when you do be accepted into a squadron, just be not saying like don't praise the person, but just be a little bit grateful. Show that hey, thanks for accepting me. I'm glad to be part of the team. Just something simple and easy that just lets people know that you have a little bit of fucking gratuity in your heart. And like I said, and then
don't go around humping their legs.
and like I said, just being respectful to their roles and the reason clan squadrons and communities have rules is because some asshat before you broke that rule, which is why that rule had to be in place, and you don't want to push that trigger and see what happens. And so like I said, that's kind of I think good advice to actually do is those rules are there for a reason. They're not there to be an asshole or micromanaging. Usually somebody somewhere uh, pissed somebody off. And next part I'd like to say is it's all kind of goes in the same line. Be a team player, be considerate, and then you want to try and fall in line and let them take the lead. The first time you fly with a new squadron or people you want to kind of be absorbed into, you want to fall back. Even if you're a Type A personality or you call yourself an alpha dog, and you want to lead, you need to see how they do things first. If they climb to this, if they climb at this, or do they go over here, or just how they play the game. Learn how they play the game first, and then make suggestions. Versus, guys, you gotta fly to the west. It's more efficient this way.
Yeah.
And then you'll instantly have people hating you if you're gonna be the one who is telling them how they're doing it all wrong.
Yeah, and jump in and be like Owen fucking Rommel and just telling them, yes, do pincer movement around the flanks, and we're just like, just no, shut up, go away.
I know there's tons of things that TPLF does that aren't the most efficient, aren't the best for the team, and so on. And you don't need to tell us that. Like I said, if you yell at us because, especially Kobe, my God, I yell at him all the time to stop doing head-ons. But I think at this point we have that rapport. If you come in here and say, "Man, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you retarded?" He'll probably come to your house and shoot you. So so just a heads up, don't be critical.
I would just like to point out he is being 100% serious.
um, that's why he doesn't know where my home address. Anyway, and the other thing though is be helpful where you can, and I'll say this for a lot of the guys. I don't know if like we have members here, Iron Yako, Firefly, Markin, Wobbly Yonder from Linsky. I don't want to leave anybody out, but Kobe obviously, Walrus, and so on. They all bring in one way or another knowledge, either about real life airplanes, Axis airplanes, Allied airplanes, bombers. That's why I've had them on the podcast, and that's why I wanted to kind of put this information publicly. Is if you have information about bullets, guns, airplane speeds, just random information about airplanes or about how to play the game, or does this 50 cal type of bullet destroy this type of ground unit? Sharing that information to your squadron gains you credibility when you put it in the right place. Just being not saying oh, you're doing it wrong, but saying, hey, you can destroy that light pillbox with 50s. Most people don't know that little fact, and typically they'll be grateful and actually want to play with you more if you actually know something.
Yeah, depending from squadron to squadron, knowledge is widely accepted and thanked. I'll give an example. One of our squadron members is actually the co-commander, Wolf of the North. He's pretty, I wouldn't say infamous, that's the wrong word, but he's well known within the jet circle, like tier 5.
We've had a couple of people leave TBLF to go learn from him. I have no problem with it, by the way, but yeah, we've had a couple of guys who left TBLF to go learn from Wolf of the North and his jets, and good for them.
Jesus, Wolf is just like, I don't know. He's just like the fucking sensei or something. He's just instinctive with the saber. He knows what to do with it. He can do things that other players they're just sitting there watching, like mouth open, like how the fuck did you do that?
What?
He knows the insides out of the saber. He knows the history. He knows the capabilities of the saber versus almost any other plane in this game. Apart from maybe props, but saber should never have to fight a prop.
Well, that's the thing I'll say is that I played the game because of props, and then I think the hardest part for a lot of players, and I should do a podcast on this in the future, is the main thing you'll probably gain from Squadrons is that jump from prop planes to jets. There's a lot that changes, and if you try to fly jets as props, you're gonna die and lose and be awful and etc. And I'll give a little shout to Mark, and he was the one who helped me at least learn, in jets it's not all about altitude, it's not all about positioning and blah blah, it's about airspeed and angles and this and that. And having somebody in your squadron who is willing to help those around you, that's what it's about. And if there's any reason, to join a squadron, it's for that type of for those times of when you're struggling, to have somebody else kind of hold your hand.
Has the knowledge and the experience.
So
help you out. It's probably one thing I should point out about BRS. We recruit people of a competent. I'll say competent. I don't want to say pro or elite or some douchebag like that. We want competent people who know what they're doing, but want to learn a little bit. And as such, we don't really do training, like proper training events. Because I know some squadrons, like 1/16th Squadron, they spring to mind. They're great guys. They do training, fantastic. But it's just not something we at BRS want to do. It's a hassle within itself, basically. To teach people.
The problem is finding somebody to do the time, and we can't even get 4 of us to train for a fucking tournament correctly. How am I supposed to run an training organization for 44 other people? It's just not
Yeah,
gonna happen with us, and that's
it's not happening with BRC. I'll tell you that much. Jeez.
that's it.
I mean, yeah, that's basically our way of having to train people is just recruit people who are competent from the get go. So training is relatively light in.
I said
But I should actually make. Sorry,
no
interrupting.
problem.
But I should make a shout out to the 116th because when we first started BRS, the 116th were such a huge help. In more ways, they probably know. But I looked at their squadron. They have their own website. It's just so immaculately run. It from the outside looking in. It's so efficient. Everyone knows what they're doing. The community is brilliant. And I just thought, you know what? I want to have a squadron like that. And if I'm honest, BRS is sort of in honor of 116th, and the guys what they've taught me of what I've seen them do or how they operate, and just big shout out to them basically. And also to TBLF for just showing us how to have fun.
Well,
I mean, come on.
we just make this shit up as we go. So there's nobody I can give credit to because we just that sounds like a good idea at the time. Hold my beer. I think that
I think for TBLF the credit goes to each and every each individual member.
it's all Kobe. He's the like I said, he's the one who paid for it, so we can all thank him.
Yeah, the one who pays for it, it's all him.
Like I said though, for all those people who have applied to TBLF that have been turned down, I'm grateful. Don't ever take a rejection personally. Like I said, usually when we reject people, it's not for the betterment of the squadron. All of the TBLF guys don't see themselves as better as anybody else. It's just we really feel that you learn more elsewhere because we will not do a single thing to help you with your game. We'll probably make it worse. Like I said, and I do actually push a lot of people to BRS because I feel that you guys are doing, a better job than most out there to run a squadron correctly. And
yeah, we've been. I mean, we do get a lot of members, applications from people from other squadrons, just because they're so sick of the way it's run. I mean, yeah, I don't want to put any names out there, but of what squadrons, but some of the squadrons these guys come from are pretty much unknown. Some of them are really well known, like Konig. They're just sick of having children in higher up places or something like that. But it's a compliment when especially for me, when Bo says nice things about BRS, it shows me we're doing something right. As a squadron, as a clan, this is what we should look for. We should be aiming to have some sort of compliments coming from other squadron members because I respect Bo. He knows what he's talking about with regards to squadrons. He's been in this whole gaming circle a lot longer than I have because literally I just started BRS with a couple of guys last year. Bo's been in this sort of gaming stuff for what, I don't know, more than 10 years.
I've been PC
now?
gaming since for 15 years. My first game I actually played online, first time I ever heard the name Clan was back in Rainbow Six Rogue Spear. That fucking dates me right there.
Jeez, wow. I have actually heard of that, but only because my maths teacher was telling me about it.
Well, I was playing that when I was in junior high, I think, if I remember right. Fucking 8th grade playing tactical shooters. But anyway, America.
Those were the days. Those were the days.
I think that wraps us up about Squadrons. If anybody out there has any questions about BRS or TBLF or any comments in general about Squadrons, feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll be around. Like I said, I put a little introduction before this that talks about what we're going to do next week.
Yep.
And thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to plug about BRS or?
I was just going to make a tip. What we said about Kobe coming to your house and shooting everyone you love was seriously not a lie. He will come and shoot you. So.
He absolutely will. He has at least 25 loaded guns at a time, so
I've actually heard one being popped in the background when I said one thing that was wrong to him, so yeah.
Yep.
It wasn't comforting, I'll tell you that much.
Alright. Well, I hope everybody out there has a good week, and we'll see you next time.